What characters are safe in cross-platform file names for Linux, Windows and OS X? Currently, I use a YAML name plus page name for most of my files. Name has spaces converted to underscores. I'd like to use the YAML date format, but I am not sure how to separate it from the name. Would look strange if the name started with a number. If I use a underscore, then it conflicts with the underscore representing a space. What characters are reasonably safe in file names that would work here? I am on Linux, but I might share files with other people, Windows 7, Mac OS X.
Summary. Windows, anything except ASCII's control characters and \\column question mark and LT semicolon and GT semicolon vertical bar. Linux, OS X, anything except null or slash. On all platforms it is best to avoid non-printable characters such as the ASCII control characters. Windows. In Windows, Windows Explorer does not allow control characters or \\column question mark and LT semicolon and GT semicolon vertical bar. You can use spaces. If you use spaces, you will often have to quote the file name when used from the command line, but GUI apps are unaffected so far as I know. Windows file systems such as NTFS apparently store the encoding with the file name, but UTF-16 is standard. Some parts of Windows are case-sensitive, other parts are case-insensitive. It is easy to create distinct file names like AB and AB on a Windows NTFS file system. These names refer to separate files which contain distinct separate content. However, although the Windows command prompt will happily list both files using dir, you cannot easily access or manipulate one of them using commands such as type. See below. Linux, OS X. In Linux and OS X only, of the printable ASCII set is prohibited, I believe. Some characters, shell metacharacters like question mark, will cause problems in command lines and will require the file name to be appropriately quoted or escaped. Linux file systems such as X2, X3 are character set agnostic. I think they just treat it more or less as a byte stream, only nulls and are prohibited. This means you can store file names in UTF-8 encoding. I believe it is up to the shell or other application to know what encoding to use to properly convert the file name for display or processing. Conclusion? So you could probably safely use something like, if it weren't so hard to type. Case insensitivity in Windows. Note that we cannot type the contents of the second file. The Windows type command just returns the contents of AB instead. The third file would be distinct from AB on Linux also. Windows 10 NTFS.
While Red Gritty Brick's answer is technically correct, safety isn't the only issue. Usability is also important. I think a better question is what characters are good to use in a file name. Some potential guidelines. '09AZRZ underscore, alphanumeric characters, and the underscore are always fine to use. \/ column question mark and LT semicolon and GT semicolon vertical bar, and the null byte are problematic on at least one system, and should always be avoided. Spaces are used as argument separators on many systems, so file names with spaces should be avoided when possible. Other white spaces, for example tabs, even more so. Semicolons are used to separate commands on many systems. Semicolons and commas are used to separate command line arguments on some versions of the Windows command line. %, and amp semicolon exclamation mark at column plus equals tilde, and all have special meanings in many shells, and are annoying to work around, and so should be avoided. They also tend to look horrible in URLs. Leading characters to avoid. Many command line programs use the hyphen to indicate special arguments. Mix-based systems use a full stop as a leading character for hidden files and directories. Anything not in the ASCII set can cause problems on older or more basic systems, for example some embedded systems, and should be used with care. That basically leaves you with 09AZRZ _ that are always safe and not annoying to use, as long as you start the file name with an alphanumeric smile.
You could replace current underscores with hash, proofreader symbol for space, underscore to section date from file name, or a second hyphen, easier to type. Alt 1. Initial caps can replace spaces, yumthim filename.ext, or yumthim underscore filename.ext. Minimal characters for clear display, which auto-sorts with padded zeros for janset, and amp, 1st 9th EA mode.
The characters have largely been addressed by other people, though I will point out an additional aspect to consider. First, I'm addressing the choice of YUMD, which has two problems. The first problem with YUMD is that it won't work for historic data. It will sort 1997 long after 2035, instead of before. Whether that's an issue may be dependent on how widespread you want to propagate the format. The other issue with YUMD relates to the calendar reliance. While the Gregorian calendar is now the most popular one in the world, not everyone uses it or is aware of the day in its reference. Fortunately, the Gregorian year is generally known and accepted, even by those who use different years, but the month/day nomenclature can be meaningless. To be more portable, a format of Yaid, where DDD is the day in the year, is more portable. However, for those of us who use the Gregorian calendar, that is difficult because we generally are not aware of the day of the year. The MMDD format still is sortable, even if it means nothing to an individual, who themselves might create a date like 20,221,442, Gregorian year and their month and day, or 20,220,047, Gregorian February 16th, the 47th day of the year, thinking they are complying with your format. Continuing the theme of how widespread the format is to be used, a consideration needs to be made for the characters available around the world. The short dash is available everywhere, because it is the minus sign, used globally. Underscore is more of a problem, even for some who use the Latin alphabet. They can normally get to it one way or another, but it is not on every keyboard. In some alphabets, the underscore is a character or character modifier, so makes confusion. In many Persian languages, the underscore would be read as a kashida. In many alphabets, what we use an underscore for, they would use an overline, something hard to get on our keyboards. Most of the keyboards for technical people have the simple Latin alphabet available on them, sometimes on the side of the key, so they can type the letters. But not always the underscore.
If you want to support the channel, please consider subscribing.